Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to another video. My name is Abbie and this is Spend More Time in the Wild. We are all about inspiring and empowering individuals to get outside for the benefit of mental and physical health whilst building meaningful connections with the natural world and with each other. Now today I'm talking about the West Highland Way. For many folks this is their first long distance trail. It runs for 96 miles from Milgavie, just north of Glasgow, right up through the Highlands to Fort William. A pretty decent place to end a trail, I have to say. Now I have done this walk twice. I've done it in 5 days both times. When you're doing the trail, you can either wild camp along the way because of Scotland's wonderful free to roam access rules. You can stay at designated campsites, that's mostly what I've done, or you can B&B. You can take as long as you want when it comes to doing this trail. It is pretty spectacular, I have to say. I would easily go and do it again right now for a third time. I really enjoy it. I have some awesome memories from this trail, and hopefully I'm going to provide you with some information, 6 tips in fact, to help you have the best possible time when you're out on the West Highland Way, or even preparing for the trail as well. So let's start with number 1. I'm going to lose count if I'm completely honest with you because the way I do these tip videos is I just splurge any information that comes to my mind, but I have some basic categories. And first of all, I want to talk about your pack weight. So if you are camping especially, you're going to have quite a lot of stuff. You're going to have your whole sleeping system, so your tent, your roll mat, your sleeping bag. You're going to have a stove system, so whether that's something like a jet boil or a pocket rocket with a gas canister, maybe you're using liquid fuel. You're probably going to have your food that you're carrying on you as well, because generally, you know, you want dehydrated ration packs, or I don't know, couscous packets or rice or something like that. So generally what I'm trying to say is the weight of your pack can very easily add up. And my first very basic standardized tip for any trail is to really whittle down that pack weight. If this is your first long distance trail, it can be it's very easy to become overwhelmed by keeping your pack nice and light. I would encourage you to head out for little micro adventures, so 1-2 nights local to home. Even if you're literally like walking to a friend's house, camping in the garden, walking to another friend's house, camping in the garden, or head out to somewhere else, you know, maybe Dartmoor, Exmoor. Do a little mini expedition just so you can really figure out what works for you when you're on the trail. Do you really need that item? And that's going to help sort of whittle down the weight that you're carrying. Trying to get that base weight down, so your base weight is the weight of your pack minus food and water, is really going to help with that comfort when you're on the trail. The other thing to consider, sort of tip number 2, is your food preparation. If you're camping, wild camping or not, unless you set yourself really strict rules that you don't want to go under a building or under a roof or into a building when you're on the trail, you want to be completely self-sufficient, then you really don't need to carry a lot of food. There are so many places to resupply on this trail, so many settlements that you go through, from Tyndrum to Drimmen to where else is there? Even just, you know, Fort William's the end of the trail, but Crinlarish, there's loads of different places you can drop down into or weave into your hike to resupply. You probably don't need to carry more than a day or two's worth of food on you. Just make sure you've got some emergency supplies, and that's it, you're covered. So that's going to again just really help tie in with that first point of keeping that pack weight down. The next thing I want to talk about is essentially looking after your feet. Now the reason why I want to bring this in now towards the beginning of the conversation, essentially before we've hit the trail, is because there is a lot you can do to maximize the well-being of your feet before you even start hiking. Now the first thing you can do is have a think about the footwear that you're going to wear. A lot of people are trying to go ultralight these days. They're jumping into sort of trail running shoes or sneakers or whatever you want to call them, and they're great, but they don't provide the same level of support or protection around your ankles or the toe box, so your toes essentially, or even heel support when you've got a heavy weight on your back. And issues like plantar fasciitis or collapsed arches, or even just proper stubbed broken toes can happen because you're not wearing boots. I always recommend people wear boots. You can get such lightweight pairs of boots these days. So essentially try on some shoes that hopefully, well, for example, if you don't have walking boots that you already know you can trust and you love and they're your friends and you've done loads of adventures for, make sure you're trying on some shoes that suit you well. Maybe you've spoken to a specialist in a store. Usually outdoor stores have got a footwear specialist who can help you with that. Then try them around the house. Your feet can naturally swell up throughout the day, so just wearing them for a day or two, just pottering about, is going to just sort of help you feel how comfortable and supportive they are. Do they get rubby and tight if your feet swell up towards the second half of the day? Then breaking them in is really important. So going for shorter walks, taking the dog out, walking to the beach, walking up your local hill, walking around the park, walking to the store. Wear those boots as much as you can, and that is going to help break them in. Essentially what you're doing when you're breaking in your shoes is you're just loosening up the fabric, and the shoes are almost molding to your feet. And again, you'll identify any possible friction points, so where the boot or your sock rubs against your skin, that friction can then cause hot spots, which is sort of essentially the balling of the skin, and then left unattended, that can lead to blisters, and nobody wants blisters. They can be tiny, but boy, are they painful. We don't want blisters. And if you're interested in more or learning more about foot care, you can watch my foot care video that's linked up above right now. I cover all different things that I do to look after my feet before, both on and off the trail. So definitely head to that video for more information on foot care. But essentially, looking after your feet before the trail by getting the right footwear paired with the right sock system, and then of course on the trail just making sure you're looking after your feet, trying to dry them out because you're probably going to get wet. Talking about wetness, we're coming to our next tip. I mean, what is this, 3 or 4? I told you I'd lose count. I've lost count. So it's Scotland. I'm in Scotland right now, and it's rained a lot. It always rains a lot. Even in the summer, it rains. So be prepared for some rain. Make sure you've got some good wet weather gear, whether you go for Gore-Tex or a vent or whatever else there is, some kind of waterproofing fabric thing. I know the whole, again, lightweight trend is just to wear a plastic poncho. That's great, but it has no insulation properties. This is Scotland. It does get cold very quickly. You need to make sure you've got plenty of layering or clothes to wear in your layering system. If you'd like to learn more about the layering system, again, you can watch my layering system video, but just make sure you've got plenty of insulation even in the summer, and you've got waterproof protection for your upper body, for your lower body. You can keep your extremities nice and warm, and if you really want to go in the deep end, why not get yourself a pair of waterproof socks, because it can get pretty wet out here. I'm just saying. Okay, so up next I want to talk about insects, most specifically the humble midge. Midges are tiny, 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 tiny. I mean, sometimes you can hardly even see them, but boy, are they a pain, a real pain. And I'm trying to be polite here. They are just a pain, of course, that's it. But essentially here in Scotland, they tend to breed predominantly around wet ground. When it's warm and muggy and there's no wind, they can really congregate. 1 or 2 you can handle, but rarely do they come in 1 or 2. It's normally like hundreds and thousands. The humble midge, as I said, they land on your skin, they prick you, they're sucking out your blood. They're really not dangerous, they're just so annoying. So I want to encourage you to have an experiment when you're up here in Scotland, especially if it's your first time, with some midge repellent. So there's different brands out there. Some people swear by Smidge, which I think was developed by Glasgow University. I can't quite remember. Essentially it's a spray. You spray it on your skin and it repels the midges. Other things people use, I tend to use Avon Skin So Soft. Probably sounds a bit odd, but this is the military swear by this. And it smells nice, but basically it's just a dry oil spray, and the midges really don't like it. So you can spray that on your arms and anywhere that's exposed. In fact, talking about exposure, try and just keep yourself covered up. You can get clothing which has insect repellent in it, but I've not had a lot of luck with that. I'm also someone who walks really hot, so I generally have my arms out and generally get eaten quite a lot. So Avon Skin So Soft it is for me. Other things you consider, or can consider even, are some sort of mosquito bands, but then if you're putting that on one hand, why not every limb you've got, if I'm honest with you. And then finally, the sort of smidge head net, or just a midgy head net. These can be really helpful as well. You can see it's quite windy today, and that's what's keeping the midges away from me. I tried to record this yesterday, but it was a still day and I got absolutely eaten alive. So thankfully it's windy, just means it's a bit fresh. Anyway, head net, I mean, for me, I'm lucky because I can put it over my hat, and there you go. I mean, you kind of look like a beekeeper, but you're not. You're just trying to stay alive. So that's the head net. So basically that tip essentially is to just really have a think about what you want to do for insect repellent. Even if you're just taking, you know, one spray between a group of you, it's really worth getting some insect repellent essentially. Especially as well if you're camping. You know, a lot of campsites are sort of on wetter ground and near water, and the midges are always out and about, so get some insect repellent, and you're probably just going to live inside of your tent. Okay, so I've got 2 final things I want to talk about. The first one is don't overlook the the benefits of carrying a guidebook on you. So when I walk the trail, I used the Trailblazer travel guide, so it's quite a chunky book, but what I love about having a guidebook on me is it's full of information. You know, it's very easy to go for a walk and just take in the nice nature, but not necessarily learn anything, not immerse yourself in the culture or the history or the archaeology or the stories that the landscape has to tell. You know, I remember there was a number of lochs near Tyndrum, and one of them some famous sword have got dropped into, and there's loads of myths and legends all around the glens that you walk through. As you can see, I remember the very specific details, but the guidebook will fill you in on those. So do consider taking a guidebook. The guidebook is optional, but a map really should not be optional. Make sure you have got a map. I'm not gonna lie, the West Highland Way is fantastically well signed. I know I could easily walk that without a map, but I always carry a map. First of all, it's super important in the event of emergency, you can locate yourself and tell the emergency services where you / somebody else is. Say you come across an injured person, really, really helpful. You cannot rely on technology to give you an accurate GPS code or grid reference, because there may not be signal, you may run out of battery, the weather may get into the system and break it. Making sure you've got a good old-fashioned map and you know how to use it is super, super helpful, and you can get them pretty much anywhere along the route or in Glasgow or even just online. You can get the Harvey's map, which I think is what I used for the trail, the West Highland Way. So just making sure you've got a good map and you've got a nice guidebook. Immerse yourself in the flora, really take in the experience, sort of 360 experience of the West Highland Way. It's so worth doing. It is a beautifully wonderful trail, very busy at times, but still naturally lovely. And then my final tip for you guys is leave no trace. So the West Highland Way is walked by about 40,000 people each year, and that is spread throughout 12 months. But let's be real, the hiking season sort of starts in April, May time and goes right through to September, October. So it is quite a densely packed period of time where people are out hiking. Many people are leaving trash everywhere. Of course, you've got erosion from the heavy footfall. So trying to stick to the paths, taking home your rubbish or packing it out, you know, picking up other people's rubbish if they've been silly enough to leave some trash, and basically just try and minimize your impact on the environment. If you're camping, leave it as you found it. I mean, I get so much joy out of packing up my tent and just walking away from a site, knowing that no one can possibly know that I've even been there. It's such a satisfying feeling. So give the landscape some attention, and just be respectful to the places that you're walking through. So there we go, guys. We covered a lot of different ground there, from pack weight to waterproof to looking after your feet to insect repellent to taking guidebooks to being kind to the environment. That's all I've got for you for now, but if you've got any questions, anything else you think that I've missed out, please pop it in the comments below and I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. I want to say thank you so much for watching, and until next time, enjoy your adventures and stay wild.